So the next segment we want to cover is a question that was brought up in another workshop that I had done, that we had completed together as a team. And the question was pretty simple, but what experiences were the most influential in helping you, Brian, to develop your own personal leadership skills? And I think of many different areas where, there were challenges that we had to face. There were challenges that we not only had to face internally, but those challenges could also go over above and beyond what we were doing internally, that would also start affecting our customers, that would also start affecting our vendors, that could affect our relationship with many different people that we were involved in. So I think one of the traits that we as leaders will always need to make sure that we're staying on top of, and that is that leaders learn to confront problems and come up with fair solutions. We seek to find the best solution for everybody involved. How is this amicable for everyone? And quite honestly, maybe somebody may look at that and say, this is not amicable, this is not fair, this is not a solution that I was looking for. But at the end of the day, here's one of the areas that we have to look at. What's going to be successful for our business? What's going to be the decision, the choice that's going to help our business become strong? What's going to help us develop solid leaders? What's going to help repair maybe even some of the damages that were done? How do we confront this particular problem and come up with a fair solution? Well, let me give you an example. We often see in government today how government is always looking out after government. How do we tax more? How do we use that revenue? I don't know why we call that revenue, but how do we use that tax revenue to grow the government bigger? Instead of confronting that problem and coming up with a fair solution, it feels like lately in the last several years, that government keeps wanting to grow bigger and bigger, tax us more and more. And it doesn't seem like a very fair solution as a small business owner of the things that are mandated, the rules and regulations that come down the pike that we have to live up to. I don't feel like it's being very fair to those of us that are trying to establish a business and create jobs. So how do we confront problems? How do we look for fair solutions? Again, that's the question we have to ask ourselves. How do we seek to find the best solution for everybody involved? I also think about a time when we had several people that were at a high level that were not particularly happy with some decisions that we had made internally. And that particular decision that we had made as a group was to change the branding in a particular entity that I was working with, an organization I was working with, because it was going to affect many people, not just from our decisions that were made, but if we change that brand, if we change the look and the feel of that brand, and even the tagline of that brand, well, what do we do with all the other individuals and all the other organizations that are tied directly to us, who have already printed materials up, who have already created websites, who've had those websites for many years? How do we make everybody feel like that there is going to be a fair solution so that they can recoup that investment that they've already made in printing materials and creating websites, in creating ads? Well, the way that we came up with a fair solution for everyone involved is we put a timeline on it. We said, look, we're changing our brand, we're changing our look, we're changing the way, the look and feel of our brand, even our tagline. But don't worry about changing all of your things overnight. Here's a fair solution. Within a year, then you'll have used up most of the, hopefully you've used up most of your printed materials with the old logo, the old brand, the old tagline, and look to start obviously replacing those printed materials within a 12-month period of time. That seemed like a fair solution for everybody. It also seemed like a way to not only confront the problem and to help ease their pain a little bit, that because they were tied directly to us and they were promoting our organization to help do fundraising, they also looked at it as a way to say, okay, I can still use, I've invested a lot of money in this printed material in our website and even in ads, but if you'll give us some time to work through this, then I think we're probably okay with that. So we confronted the problem directly. We came up with the right message, the right communication, that we then disseminated that out to all those that were involved with this, from our corporate partners to our customers to even the vendors to the media and all those that were tied to us. Seemed to be a fair solution to just not mandate that everything be changed overnight, give it some time, and then but have a deadline to it, but give it enough time so that they can use the particular materials that were already printed up. So I think that was the best amicable solution for all these different stakeholders involved. That was a great example for me as we confronted that problem and came up with a fair solution. Then I think of a quote that is really important that I learned a great lesson from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And that quote is, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." I love that quote because what it does is it helps all of us figure out times are not always going to be great. What is our true character? How does our true character come out when we are met with challenge and controversy versus always being comfortable and everything always being convenient? I love that quote. So thanks to Dr. Martin Luther King for coming up with that quote, because it's a great help to me, and it's a great help to us as leaders as we think about what our responsibilities are. Life is not always going to be rosy. Life is not always going to be comfortable and convenient. But what about the blessings that we have in our personal life, in our family life, in our business life, in our professional life, in our spiritual life? Think about all the blessings that each of us have in our daily life. Focus more on that than the controversy or the times of challenge. Focus on the many ways that you and I are blessed. And remember that the ultimate measure of a man or a woman is not where they stand in times of comfort and convenience, but where they stand at times of challenge and controversy. Again, a great quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, so the next area I want to focus a little bit on team and how we improve our team and how we improve communication and a lot of things. So the question is, what experiences, again, I want to reiterate the question, what experiences were most influential in helping you develop your own personal leadership skills? All right, so the next area then would be, leaders usually seek for personal improvement and they seek for team improvement. Why is team so important? You all know that I've discussed already that as I was growing up, I was an athlete. I was involved in 4 sports. I was involved in teams that were not so good. I was involved in state championship teams. I was involved as a member of the national championship team. And every time I look back at the teams that were most successful, it's because we had our back, we treated each other as a big family, and we knew that we all wanted to improve together. It wasn't a bunch of individualists running around. It was those teams that were a bunch of individualists that weren't as successful. So how do we develop some of those leadership skills? Well, it comes down to training. It comes down to education. It comes down to figuring out how the team works best together. It comes down to a little bit of wisdom that we have to exercise. And it comes down to using and exercising common sense. How many times have we been involved in a particular business deal, a particular team, our family, our church, wherever it may be, and we are met with somebody who does not exercise common sense. They open up the window and toss common sense right out the window. That's where it becomes very difficult. Well, that's also where the leaders need to step forward and figure out how we not only seek for our own personal development, but we seek for the development of the rest of the team. How do we improve the team? And I remember a quote that I heard many years ago that was really important to me. It still stuck with me. And I think it gets back to that question of how did I develop my own personal leadership skills? The quote was, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path, and you leave a trail." Do not follow where the path may lead. Sometimes we as leaders have to take a different path. Sometimes we have to look ahead and go back to our own vision and help others buy into that vision, and not worry necessarily about taking the beaten path that everyone else is on. But don't go where that path may lead. Go instead where there is no path, and you leave your own trail. Think about that for just a minute. Again, going against the status quo. We've talked about that earlier. Sometimes that takes a little bit of extra get up and go, a little bit of extra thought process, a little bit of extra oomph, for lack of a better word, to create our own trail, create our own path. And if we're a good leader, then others are going to follow us on that path. So I think we want to wrap up this particular section on leadership. There's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of information. The next area that I want you to focus on is the 30 traits of a successful leader. In that particular overview, I included that in a couple of my different books. The reason why I want you to focus on the 30 traits of a successful leader is because when you read that particular trait, think about how that applies to your own life. And not only think about how it applies to your life, I want you to then take that to the next level. And I want you to write down on that sheet of paper how you adhere to that particular trait, how that particular trait makes you feel. And are you exercising that trait to make the rest of the team successful? This is a great area that we can talk about, and we can go on different traits of leaders. But what are the essential traits of highly successful leaders? That's where we want to focus. What are those essential traits that you have in your own particular life? Go back and think about the things we've reviewed here in this particular module. And start thinking about, too, how you can develop your own essential traits that are going to be meaningful to your own personal life and that will help motivate and inspire your team to follow you. And how you, in turn, if you're not the leader that's in charge, how you can help your leader become more inspirational, more motivating to keep you moving forward. Share some of these thoughts with your team. Share some of these thoughts with other leaders. And come up with the best possible solution for yourself, for your team, for your company, for your organization. I think this is a great segment. I love talking about leadership, and there's a lot that we can still cover. And there's a few assignments that you're going to have here as well that are part of this segment. Not just filling out the 30 traits of a leader, 30 traits of a successful leader, but there's several other areas too that you'll have as workflow and worksheets that'll be really important for you as you start assimilating some of these areas. So thank you for joining this particular module. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, this is essential traits of highly successful leaders. I'm Brian Hazelgren. I'm signing off for now. I'll see you on the other side.